In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this amazing diorama of a trading ship being attacked by pirates. The flying ship and pterodactyl riders came from the Jurassic Tribe Kickstarter run by Cunning, I think that's how you say his name, and are available to purchase via My Mini Factory, link in the description below. As you can tell, this is a slightly different style to my normal video. I will be doing my standard video style as well, and that will be released around the same time and will be linked in the description below. Let me know what you think about this. I just want to tighten it up a little bit at time, especially for builds that I'm so proud of, like this one. Hopefully we enjoy it. Let's get to the build. This project was epic in every way. To print the ship and towing dinosaur, a Quetzalcoatl if you're interested, took 9 build plates and over 63 hours of printing. Yes, 63 hours. This was printed on my Elegoo Mars 2 Pro and was the first huge project I undertook on it. With the print completed successfully, I gathered all the parts together and took a moment to marvel at the pile of resin before I set my mind to how I would be able to assemble the ship, the hull being in 6 parts and the ends not being perfectly flat. It took about 10 days of clamping and gluing and green stuffing, and I did make a slight mistake, with one section being a little misaligned, but eventually I had most of the ship assembled. I didn't glue it all together to make it easier to handle and paint. I had a whole lot of fun painting the ship with wings and fins, and also started to paint up the pterodactyl and their pirate riders. I had printed and begun to paint some scatter items to act as cargo on the deck of the ship. In addition to this, I also downloaded, printed a selection of figures which would be the crew, gluing these to tongue depressors and adding them to the growing pile of painting. It took the better part of a month to get everything painted, but this is only the beginning of the project. Now it was time to put the diorama together to tell the story. The base for the diorama is a shelf I bought from a local store, the same size shelf as I've used in the past for my sci-fi diorama, link above, and my barrels out of Bond build, again, link above. And this gave me a solid size constraint for the project. However, how was I going to elevate the boat and the Quetzalcoatl was something else. I've never done anything like this before, so it took some thinking. I had decided that I wanted to have a backdrop for this piece and found a picture online, link in the description, of a beautiful sky with some evocative clouds. My attempt to print this out on my own colour laser printer failed. However, my very good friend Sean from Sean's Bitsbox, you can see the link to his channel above here now and in the description, came to my rescue and printed out not 1 but 2 copies of the sky to the correct dimensions and on a hard-wearing canvas material. What a legend. Do go and check his channel out. Having flattened the backdrop, I then stuck it to some mounting board, weighted it down with lots of exercise weights, that's the only use they get, and once it had dried fully, I used a sharp blade and a safety ruler, and I will link below to where I get my safety rulers from. I highly recommend them, to cut around the edge of the picture. Now I turned my attention back to the ship, stuck the dorsal fin on the bottom, and having balanced the whole inside a jug, which was a little bit precarious, I began to arrange and glue the cargo onto the deck, then offered up the crew to make sure they would still fit in place. They did. What I've realised is if I don't start this, and I have been putting it off, because it goes against my natural inclination to just wing it. If I don't start this, then I'll never get it done. So I'm going to put the camera on for a bit. I'm going to play around. This is probably going to take me quite a while. But my basic idea, my initial plan is to make use of this wire here. Get a small drill, or maybe even just a bradawl or something like that, so that I can push the wood. This will go, the little wire will go into the wood, and then I can use it to support and hold the ship. As you can see, probably not very well because where my hand is, there we are. So you can hold the ship at the angle and floating like this. So I'm probably going to need to put a wire in here and a wire back here, at least two, maybe two wires here, and maybe even another one at the front under here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start working out where the wires are going to go. And what I'm thinking I can do is, because I'm going to have like clouds and what have you, I can hide any of the wire that goes above with potentially cloud looking things, but I can also potentially on this one, which can be coming up here, I can have my pterodactyl attaching to the same wire. So those are the sort of things I'm thinking of. Whether I do it like that, maybe even better, but those are the sort of things that I'm thinking of and how I'm going to try to do it. So yeah, so once I've got these two in place, then I can start to really plan out the rest of it and get the whole diorama done. I just need to start, so I'm just going to start. It was a lot of fun, for some value of fun, getting the wires in place to support the ship and Quetzalcoatl. I used my Dremel to drill holes in the correct places, then masking tape to mark roughly where I would need to bend a shelf into the wire to sit the ship on. I ended up with 3 bent wires, and even before they were glued in place, this was enough for me to balance the ship. I made use of super glue to glue 2 of the wires into place, and it worked. I was pretty amazed at this point, I can tell you. I had also put a little lump of milliput in place behind where the dorsal fin sat on the shelf to help with positioning and stability. The Quetzalcoatl had to be mounted onto a barbecue skewer as the wire just was not strong enough on its own. Once I was happy with all of the positioning, I glued the skewer in place and then took some more milliput and strengthened around the base of the wire uprights. Until this point they were still wobbly and very loose. After 24 hours of drying time, everything was firmly in place and I was able to lift the Quetzalcoatl and ship out of the way, and this gave me access to the board so I could add in the supports for the pterodactyl and then get these uprights painted black. Next up, I used holofill, material pulled from inside of a pillow, and spray painted it with blue, grey and turquoise paint to roughly match the colour of the backdrop. And, talking about backdrops, I had decided to stick the picture to some 1 cm thick blue XPS insulation foam to give it some rigidity. I measured carefully, I even measured twice, then proceeded to stick the picture on really securely with spray contact adhesive. Upside down. Oh well, it wouldn't be a Beard Clipper video without my doing something really stupid. Never mind. To fix the backdrop in place, I drilled some small holes and glued half a cocktail stick into each one, clamping them at 90 degrees while they dried. Then, having applied a bead of PVA, I very carefully pushed the foam down over the sharp sticks. This recovered my previous mistake. The next step was to roughly arrange all the spray-painted holofill and glue it in place with PVA, making sure the ship fitted as if emerging from a cloud bank. This build is really starting to come together now, and with the clouds in place, I was ready to glue the ship to its supports and also Falling Dude disappearing into the cloud below. I left this to dry for a fair while. Next, I had to glue the attackers in place onto the wires. I used super glue and not in the final position, particularly the middle creature, which would need the wire to be bent after everything was dry to a final location to allow me to position the jumping girl on its shoulder. And so to the final touches of arranging some more holofill clouds to obscure the wire supports and then stick on the crew as they respond to the sudden attack of the Sky Pirates. Well, there we are. That was a fun edit. A very different thing for me, as I've said, and the standard video will also be being produced, and I will link that as well. Let me know what you think about this edit. Let me know what you think about the build. Let me know if you think you prefer this style over my usual ones. I'm not sure, I'm not convinced. It took a lot of time and a lot of effort, which I'd normally put into my real hobby, which is making things rather than making videos. This is just an addendum. So yeah, that's I'm not sure, but if people really like it, then I might try to do this for more of the special builds such as this one is. So from me and from Xena, who is currently crying and wanting to go out, so I better get going. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and do let me know what you think. And as always, please stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.